Hey, this is Dan here at Studio Blue. This is Pilates All Levels. Optional props, a mini ball and a mini band. Be mindful with these mini bands if you're using them or any kind of band that's pretty thick or tense. You want to make sure you still have full range of motion. So if your band is so heavy that you can't move your limbs, whatever limb we might be working, you want to decrease the weight a little bit. If you don't have a mini ball at home, a pillow or something like that would work. And all of this can be done without any props at all. And as always, if anything doesn't feel good, like back pain, joints, back, neck, please don't push through that kind of negative pain. All that said, we're going to start hands and knees and we'll get rolling. Just have your props close by, fingers spread, knees under hips, hands under shoulders. And just start by rounding the spine. So we want to try to get some mobility into the pelvis, into our vertebra. And then as you inhale, start to open the chest. So eyes come forward, shoulder blades glide down. Nice. And just a couple more like this. So curling tail rounding, spread your shoulder blades wide. And then lifting the tailbone, opening the chest, letting the shoulder blades glide down. So initially on this, if you close your eyes and just feel the movement, notice if there's any parts of your spine or your hips or your shoulders that feel a little tight or tense, and can you take a moment of pause and maybe breathe into some of those places? So we're using this as a way to kind of find some mobility in the individual joints and to also just kind of check in and see how everything's feeling. So last one into your extension, and then find the place in the middle of those extremes and then look to your right, wag your tail. Kind of look behind you so your neck gets a little bit of range of motion as well. And then come through center, look to the left and wag your tail to the left. Yep, and then just keep going like this. So a couple more each side. And I'm going to change the angle here. But as you're wagging, make sure that your hips don't start to kind of sway outside like the rectangle or the box that you've created from your hands and your knees. So really going for a little bit of kind of lateral flexion or side bending. Yep. Just take one more to the left. And then find your center, feet together, knees open, press on back child's pose or resting pose. Let the head be heavy. And your hands can always come under the forehead. They can go forward if you want a little extra stretch into the armpits. Take a couple breaths, and as you breathe in, start to breathe into the back of the ribs. And you're going to feel your stomach move a little bit, but instead of just breathing the stomach onto the thighs, think of breathing up and around your thighs. So your middle back, your upper back starts to expand. You start to create a little bit more space. And this is going to help when we go into our abdominal work and our chest lifts and all of that. And then walk your arms over to the right. And just take a little extra stretch through that left side of your back. So you might even reach through that left arm a little bit more. Maybe the shoulder lifts a bit into the ear. See how that feels. And then just notice how it feels when it drops back down a little bit. And then walk your arms over to the other side. And again, just breathe into that side. So from hip all the way to shoulder to armpit, you're getting a nice stretch. Yeah, maybe the shoulder lifts a little bit for a moment towards your ear, right? We do need that range, right? You don't want to live in it, but you do need that range of shoulder lifting into ear when you're reaching overhead sometimes. And then come back to center, roll yourself up, make your way onto your back. Again, just make sure your props are close by if you're using them today. And we're going to grab our ball. Again, it could be a pillow or a block, anything like that, but it's going to go in between our knees. So the feet are ball distance or prop distance apart. Arms relaxed by your side. And as you exhale, curl the tailbone and start to slowly roll your hips to the sky. I'm just feeling the knees stretch over the toes. The heels not only pushing down into the ground, but pulling towards your shoulders a little bit. Feel the front of the hips open at the top. The ribs are still pretty heavy. Inhale. And then exhale, roll down, upper spine, middle, lower. And let the pelvis open to neutral. And again, exhale, curl. The waistline draws in. Find that articulation. Good. Even weight through the heels, first toe, last ball of the foot. And then again, roll it down slowly. Good. And just one more like that. We'll curl. We're going to roll up to the top of that bridge and feel that the ribs are fairly heavy at the top. Belly's drawing in. And then give your prop a little squeeze. So you start to feel your inner thighs turning on. And as you squeeze into that prop, turn on the back of the glutes, maybe lift the hips a little higher, but allow the front of the ribs to settle down so you're not creating a lot of tension at your middle or lower back. As you inhale, take your arms to the sky, palms face one another. And then as you exhale, roll down slowly, upper spine, middle spine. As you roll down, reach your arms overhead. Allow those shoulder blades to wrap and move. Pelvis opens to neutral. Hands together behind the head, elbows in your peripheral vision. And then nod your chin slightly. Exhale, curl the head and the chest up. And then inhale, lower the chest and the head down. Again, a little bit of a nod. Exhale, curl up. So at the top, your eyes are somewhere over the tops of the knees. Inhale, take it down. Good. So keep going with this one. Exhaling to lift. Inhaling to lower. Nice. Yeah. Morning, Yvonne. Couple more like this. So avoid at the top of these lifts, your head pulling up and out of your hands and your pelvis tucking under too much, right? So at the top, check in that you're not overusing your glutes and that your head isn't starting to pull up out of your hands so the neck isn't doing too much work. Nope. The next time you lift up, stay lifted. So stay in that chest lift. Head's nice and supported. Now on your next breath out, curl your tailbone, let your lower back imprint a little bit. And it might touch the floor, might not, right? Inhale, let your pelvis unwind to neutral. So there's a little bit of space. And then exhale, think of gently flattening that space using your abs, not your glutes. And again, inhale, pelvis to neutral. Exhale, curl, head relaxed into the hands. One more, inhale, pelvis to neutral. Maintain your neutral. On your next breath out, reach your left arm past your right thigh. So there's a small twist. Inhale to center. Squeeze your prop. Exhale, right hand past left thigh. Inhale to center. Exhale, reach. Twist. Inhale, center. Exhale, reach. Twist. And just check in that as you're twisting, your shoulders and overly lifting up into your ears. And you're not just side bending through the spine, but you are finding some rotation. One more each side. Eventually ending to your left. So right arm reaching left will end you. Come all the way back down, both hands behind the head. Walk your feet towards you. If you want to advance or level up, imprint the lower spine. Give that prop a little squeeze and float the legs to tabletop. As you exhale, nod the chin, curl the head and the chest up. At the top, grab the back of your thighs, elbows pretty wide, and then use your arms to curl yourself up maybe like a centimeter or two higher. Keep your tail pretty heavy. Take an inhale. Exhale, slowly bring your hands out and around and behind the head. Stay lifted. On your next breath out, just give your prop a little squeeze and feel your stomach draw down. Inhale, relax a little. Big exhale. And add that squeeze, right? So you should feel lower abs, right? Obliques, everything kind of around the ribs, down the center of the stomach. Everything's working here. As you breathe in, really think of widening into the back of the rib cage. So upper spine, middle spine. Take one more breath. Good. And then grab the back of the thighs again, right? If you sunk back, use your arms, curl up just a hair, just a touch off your shoulder blades. Again, take a big inhale. Exhale, squeeze your prop slowly. Hands come out and around to the back of the head. The slower you go, the harder it is on the stomach. Once your head's supported, take an inhale. Exhale, squeeze your prop and kind of out of your lower peripheral vision. Feel your stomach draw down. Inhale, breathe wide. Exhale, squeeze and feel the belly draw in. Inhale, breathe wide. Exhale, squeeze, feel the belly draw in. So keep going with this. Everybody feeling this one? Sweet. So fairly simple, right? We're not even moving. If you were watching what was going on here, right? It doesn't look like a lot's happening, but you should feel a whole bunch of heat being generated. All right, on your next breath, grab the back of your thighs, right? If you sunk back, just kind of wiggle yourself up a little. Yep. Nice, hold there. So elbows wide, shoulders soft, take an inhale. Exhale, give that prop a little squeeze. Hands come back and around slowly. Yep. Good, support the head. And again, on that next breath out, give that prop a little squeeze, right? And imagine an elevator from your pubic bone kind of up to the base of the ribs. Every time you exhale, imagine that elevator, the pelvic floor, the lower abs are lifting up. And then as you inhale and breathe wide, your pelvic floor gets to relax a little bit, right? Super important. Your pelvic floor is not just really strong, but it's also mobile and flexible and knows how to let go. Take just 2 more like that. Good. Last one. And then lower the chest, lower the head, hug the knees into the body. If you have a prop, keep it where it's at. Take an inhale. Exhale, curl up, hands are on the shins. Knees about 90 degrees, hips about 90 degrees. On your next breath out, your arms are gonna reach forward to start. And the reach of the fingers forward, right, is helping curl us up off our shoulders. On your next breath out, start to straighten the legs towards the sky. Now, it doesn't matter if they actually get all the way straight or not. Allow the pelvis to curl slightly. So I'm not throwing my hips, my pelvis just kind of naturally curls and rolls, and then bend the knees, let the tailbone come back down. Now, this can also be done with the hands behind the head for a little bit more neck support and more upper ab work. So we lengthen, there's that little curl, and then we bend and come back to center. So keep going with this. And if you kind of peel back to those little pelvic tilts we were doing maybe 5 minutes ago, whatever, in the beginning of the class, it's that same motion. So we're not throwing our hips. Yes, exactly. There's just kind of this little bit of a rock that happens because your legs are coming towards your head. And it should feel like your lower abs are kind of meeting your middle and your upper abs. Yep. Take 2 more. And again, it can be a really small range. It doesn't have to be big. Last one. The next time your legs reach up, hold there. Yeah. Reach back, support your head if your arms are still forward. Bend the knees, lower the chest, lower the head. Take that prop off to the side for a moment, settle the feet down. And feet are going to be about hand distance apart, so fairly narrow. Curl the tail, roll the hips to the sky, 1 bone at a time. And then find a place where your knees, hips, shoulders are a fairly long line. Put some weight in your left leg. And then as you exhale, lift your right heel or the whole right leg tabletop. And just hold here for a moment. Make sure your hips are still square, the waistline's in, and you should feel that standing leg starting to turn on quite a bit. So the glutes, the hamstrings, set that foot down, and then lift the opposite heel or opposite leg fully tabletop. Again, you might check your hips, just make sure one didn't drop or hike or rotate. Lower that leg down, and then keep switching from side to side. So things to check, make sure that the middle back isn't starting to overly arc like this. But all of that ab work that we just did, you're using your abs to help stabilize your ribs and your pelvis. And you're using your glutes to help keep the pelvis and the hips nice and stable. Good. And just take 1 more to your last side. Yep, feel both feet heavy to the ground. Roll down slowly. Upper spine, middle spine, lower spine. Pelvis to neutral, and then again, curl, roll back up. Feel that the abdominals are still on, the back of the glutes are on, knees are stretching forward, find some length in the hips. Put some weight into that left leg, exhale, right heel or leg comes up tabletop. And we're gonna stay here for a moment. So again, just make sure hips are still square. And as you exhale, take your right foot, flex it, reach the heel to the sky. Again, maybe the leg straightens all the way, maybe it doesn't, that's fine. Inhale, bend the leg back to tabletop. Same side, exhale, flex. reach, heel to sky. And as that heel is reaching up, feel your opposite heel pushing down. Inhale, bend, right? Hands can always come to the hips for a little extra support. You could take a prop or a pillow under the pelvis if you want a little bit more support as well for the lower back, or if the hips are just really tired today for whatever reason. Yeah. And again, it doesn't matter what the reason, right? If you just did a huge workout yesterday or climbed a mountain, your legs are probably going to be tired today. So just be mindful. Yeah, take one more. Good. And then bend that leg, set the foot down, right? If you don't have a prop, just roll your hips all the way down. If you have a prop, you can just relax onto that prop for a moment. And then exhale, curl the tail, roll back up. Opposite leg is going to float up to tabletop. Yeah, and again, if you have a prop, go for it. You can use it. Once you're tabletop, think of reaching that heel straight to the sky, keeping the knee over the hip, right? So try not to reach the leg forward, but keep knee over hip. And again, if the leg doesn't completely straighten, that's okay. But you're going to feel an active stretch through the calf, through the hamstrings. Yep, waistline stays in. Keep going. Think about the last two. And on the last one, bend the knee, set the foot back down. If you have a prop under your hips, keep it there. If you don't, grab your pillow or your ball. You can place it underneath the center of the pelvis, so right around the sacrum. And if you don't have a pillow or a ball, no worries. This can all be done without. Your hips will just be on the ground. And you want to go into a little bit of a imprinted spine. So tailbone's going to curl slightly, waistline's in. One leg at a time can float up through tabletop. So your arms can rest by your side. If you want more stability, take up a little bit more room with those arms. Less stability, bring your arms by your side or maybe even bend them at the elbows. Now on your next breath out, waistline in, ribs stay heavy, right leg stretches forward about 45 degrees. So checking that those feet are the same height still, and then pull back in. And then exhale, left leg reaches out. Waistline draws in, inhale, bend. Now you can stay here if you want to balance your challenge. Maybe your arms lift to the sky, right leg straightens, right? And we're just alternating from side to side. Feel the waistline set before you move the leg. If you want even more challenge, if your arms are at the sky, reach them halfway overhead. So there's a challenge to keep the front of the ribs drawing downward, right? There's a lot more oblique challenge on this one. Right, I don't know if you can hear the tremble in my voice as soon as I reach my arms overhead. Right, so keep going. And check in that as you reach, the ribs aren't starting to pop. There's a sense of weight through the back, kind of upper part of the rib cage. Yeah. Let's take one more to your left. And then come back to center, take the legs to the sky. And again, arms can be down, or if they're up, just keep them up. Now keep the waistline in, exhale, lengthen and lower the right leg, maybe to 45 degrees, maybe you start to go a little lower, try not to touch the floor. And then think of waistline starts the movement, lift that leg up, feel the thigh getting heavy into that hip joint, yep, and then switch. So as the leg is lowering, the front of the hip has to open. As that leg comes back up, I want you to feel deep ab, deep hip, deep inner thigh. And only go so far that you don't start to go into like a big back bend or a big heavy brace with your back. Check in that the shoulders are still relatively easy and relaxed. Yep. So this is a play off hamstring pulls, or classically called scissors. Take just one more each side. And eventually ending to the left. Once you finish that side, bend the knees, settle the feet one at a time. And if you were using a prop, lift your hips, take that prop off to the side and roll it on down. Hug the back of the thighs in towards you. Right, let the feet relax, take an inhale. Exhale, lift the head and the chest, push the legs into the hands, roll yourself up to seated. And if you have a prop, we're going to place it just kind of at the base of the rib cage. And then the legs are going to lengthen forward. So this can be done without any kind of prop at all, right? So going into roll-ups with a prop behind us. So if we're up high enough, if we're up off of our shoulders, should take some pressure off the neck, collarbones open, take an inhale. Exhale, slowly start to lift off that ball, right? So feel that the feet are heavy, you start to feel your abs engaged. Now we are going to come all the way up. We're going to sit tall at the top. Knees can bend as much as you need to find that height from your hips all the way to your ears. Curl the tail. Yep, feet stay anchored and just start to slowly sink back into that ball, right? We're never going to go we're not going into extension yet. I'm not going to say never, but keep that sense of lift. Take an inhale. Exhale from the abs. Start to feel the center line of the stomach, the base of the ribs starting to take you up. Yep. You'll feel deep hip, deep inner thigh. Yeah, and you can use weights. Anything like that is fine. Sitting tall, band around the feet would also work on this. Curl the tail. Start to roll back, right? So hip mobility, hip strength, spinal mobility. Now, once you sink back into your prop, maybe take the hands behind the head, right? We're not lowering yet. We're not extending. Take an inhale, exhale, arms forward, slowly start to come up. Shaky, shaky today. All right, sitting tall, easy in the shoulders. And again, curl the tail. Start to roll back. Maintain your lift. Hands together behind the head. You should feel the abs kick in a little bit more. Now hold here. As you inhale, take a small stretch back. So I'm opening up the upper spine, the middle spine. Exhale, curl up, maybe come all the way up with your hands still behind your head. Try to find that length in your spine so you feel your middle and your upper back extensors. And again, curl the tail. Keep the neck long as you roll back, right? Feel the weight into the ball. Take a small stretch over. So good. So lower back still fairly neutral. Exhale, curl. Sit tall. Good. So take one more, whatever version you're working on today. Yep. So rolling back. Yep. Curl back up, right? Don't go too far into this into the extension. Yeah. Once you get to the top, bend the knees. If you have a prop, place it in between the knees. And now feet can be flat or flexed, whatever feels better in your arches. You'll grab the back of the thighs. Just sit fairly tall, right? Easy in the shoulders, easy in the hips. And then curl the tailbone and roll off your sit bones. So the lower back is rounding a decent amount. The upper back just has its natural curve. Give your prop a squeeze on your next breath out. Take your right hand behind your head. Hold there. Press your head a little bit into your hand and feel your chin drop. So you're lengthening the back of your neck. And then return your hand back to the thigh. Squeeze your prop, exhale, left hand back of the head. Again, a little bit of pressure of the head going back, chin dropping down. So you should feel your abs turn on more and your neck lengthen. One more on each side like this. Yeah, easy in the shoulders. One more to the left. Yeah. All right, now if you want to add on, both arms can start forward. As you exhale, right hand behind the head. Inhale forward, right? That moment of pause is important. Exhale, left hand behind the head. Inhale forward. So keep going with this, right? One hand and then the other. Good. Staying easy in the shoulders. Yeah. Everyone feeling this one? Okay. So it's your obliques stabilizing, right? So your obliques can create rotation. They can create side bending. They can also create a lot of stability. And with your left hand, yeah, and once you finish the left, both hands behind the thighs, sit tall, take your prop off to the side, feet together, let the knees butterfly open and fold forward. And just let the hips get a break for a second. And just hip work as well, but the star of the show should be the obliques on that one. And then restack, sit tall, knees bent again, no prop needed. So again, hands can be behind the thighs, or if you want to up level, arms go forward. Curl the tailbone and just roll back a little bit off your sit bones. So there's a chance for the hips to open. Yep, separate the feet just a little bit, good. Now your right hand is going to come to the breastbone. And then as you exhale, you're going to reach your left arm forward. So make sure it doesn't cross the body. Just reach forward. It's almost like your left knee is like your measurement here, the way you can kind of notice where you're going. Inhale back to center. That wasn't a very good description, but either way, reach your left arm forward. That's going to create the rotation. So it's right lower ribs, left upper ribs, back to center. Now this can also be done, right, with that right hand still behind the thigh if you want a little bit of support. Now this is when you want to feel like it's coming from the rib cage, not the lower back, right? And it's a pretty small movement, but it should be a pretty big sensation. Last one. Try to relax the hips as much as you can. Find your center. Right arm goes forward, left hand to the chest. Exhale, reach that right arm forward. That's going to create the rotation to the left. Inhale, center. Exhale, reach. And if you notice your hips start to get a little grippy, you can always flex your feet like I'm doing right here. That should help ease some of the hip tension. So now it's left lower ribs, right upper ribs, helping to create this rotation. Last two. We are going to do something different besides just abs today, I promise. Last one. Good. Come to center, both arms forward. Take an inhale, exhale, slowly roll down. Just as slow as you can, through the pelvis, low back, middle back, upper back. Arms reach overhead, lengthen your legs out, and just relax for a moment. So just let everything relax. Your legs can turn out. If your ribs want to pop a little here or lift or extend, just kind of find a place where you're relaxed. And then as you breathe in, really reach out from fingertip to toes, like you're kind of gently getting stretched apart. Good. And then hug the knees into the chest one at a time. Yep. And just take a little roll from side to side. And then grab the back of your thighs with your hands. And again, as you exhale, lift the head and the chest, push the legs into the hands, roll yourself up to a balance point. So elbows pretty wide, feet get to kind of relax completely on this one for now. Shoulders easy. Right, take a breath in, just kind of notice the angle of your hips. And as you exhale, can you keep that angle as you extend your right leg? So you're finding some length in the back of the thigh. Inhale, bend back to where you started. Feel the weight of your thigh bone in your pelvis. Left leg extends, right? Not really any change to the spine, the pelvis, or the angle of the hips. Keep going. Yep. Yeah, and you have, right, the hand at the back of the thigh to give you a little bit of support. Yeah, and if this is feeling okay, maybe try both legs. Inhaling to bend, right? Exhaling to extend. So teasers, right? Deep abs, deep inner thighs, deep hips. Now, bend back, hold. Maybe play around with arms reaching forward. And can you keep all of these angles the same as you reach and as you bend, right? And you are going to feel a little bit of thigh work here as well. Again, that hip angle isn't really going to change, and the space from your knees to your chest won't really change. Last two. Yeah. Last one. Easy in the shoulders. Hold it there. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2. On one, rest. Feet down, butterfly the knees open, fold forward. Good, and I'm just changing the music here. I promise I'm not texting. Keep breathing, allow the inner hips and inner thighs to open for a moment. Okie dokie. All right, and then let's come up from there. If you have a band, we're gonna grab that band and place it around the thighs. So if you're using a mini band, once it's over your ankles, keep it really wide, and you can use your thumbs to kind of inchworm it up over your knees. If you have a long TheraBand, thighs together, right? Tie it with your thighs completely together, and then you'll make your way onto your side, and that'll help keep the tension strong enough in the band. All right, so we're gonna pick a side, any side, but we are gonna come down. If you want a prop for your head, you can grab one. All right, and as always, right, we don't need any of these bands to feel the work in the hips and the glutes. Yep. So again, if you want a ball or prop under the head, you can use it, or simply bottom arm long, knees bent forward, heels in line with the back of the sit bones, hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, rib line is in, and then lift the top thigh into the tension of the band and just hold there. You'll probably feel a little bit of a stretch in the front of the hip because we were just working them, right? But if you take your top hand, heel of the hand to the hip bone, fingers reach back into the center line of the glute and see if you feel some tone there. Slowly lower the thigh. And then as you lift, right, think of pivoting in the hip joint. And you're using, right, the back center of the glute line to help lift you into external rotation. All right, not overly rounded in the spine, not overly arched in the spine. So if you tend to be someone that has more of maybe an arched posture, you want to think of softening the ribs in. If you tend to be someone that maybe is a little more rounded, you want to think of kind of opening or lifting the chest, right? So the cueing on that is really relative to your posture. All right, now I like heels together, toes apart on this, but you might find toes and heels together. You feel some good glute engagement. You don't feel anything grippy in the hips. So again, you can play around with the footing, either pivoting on just that top heel, or feet and heels stay together. Yeah, so again, just kind of play around with it. Yeah, feel ribs drawing in just a bit. Yep. And does everyone feel this? Okay, cool. And this one, right, it shouldn't be just the side of the hip. It should really be going kind of back towards the tail as well. So kind of that whole center line. Yeah. So last two like this. And Julia, feel that top hip go forward just a little. Yeah, there you go. Nice. Okay, last one. Hold up into the tension. Right? That back line is still on. That back glute line is still on. Keep the tension in the band. Just lift your back foot. So now your thigh, shin, and foot are about parallel to the ground. Keep the knee 90 degrees. Push that leg a little bit back in space. Yep, hold there. So now the front of the hip is opening. Center of the glute, hamstrings are on. Now, as you exhale, rotate your thigh in. So your foot kicks to the sky. Inhale back to center. And then same thing, exhale, rotate the thigh in, keeping the tension on the band the whole time. And this should be more in the center line, kind of side center line of your gluteals into your hips. Yeah. Now our internal range of motion is all really, our range of motion in general is all very different from person to person, but internal especially tends to be very different than our external, right? So again, try not to force it. Notice as your foot is kicking up, as your hip wanting to hike, is your pelvis wanting to move around to try to find that range. But you're just moving within that hip joint. Last one. Yeah, and then rest and just kind of pad out the side of the hip on that. Nice. All right, so staying with the side still. Top leg goes long. Reach that leg a little bit behind your hip. So it's just in slight extension. Waistline's in, softly point the foot, lift up about hip height. So straight leg, pointed foot. And then as you exhale, see if you can lift up just a little bit higher than hip height, maintaining parallel. Inhale, drop down hip height. And then exhale, as that leg lifts, just check that the hip bone isn't hiking. And you're using your waistline to help stabilize the pelvis. You're using your outer hip to lift the leg. Yeah, and I'm really thinking of length, right? Reaching through the toes, especially that baby pinky toe, to lift and take it down. Last two, we lift, take it down. Last one, we lift, take it down. Now hold, bend that back leg. Hold, and maybe just push back in space a little bit more. So again, front of the hip is opening, front of the thigh. Keep your waistline in so it doesn't start to overly arc the back. Now keeping that top knee bent, just take that leg forward until you kind of feel the tension go away a little bit. And then exhale, waistline in, knee stays 90 degrees, push the thigh back. So front of the hip, center of the glute line and hamstrings. Inhale forward. And exhale back, so hip extension. Yep. Again, right? It doesn't have to be a huge range of motion here. Yeah, rib line stays in, waistline stays in. Last one. And then come back to center, lower that leg and just pad out the side of the hip again. Now, if you have a prop under your head, it can go away for a moment. Both hands behind the head, top elbow lifts, right? We do this one pretty much every week. The head, the upper spine, and the middle spine will start to rotate back. Now your hips are gonna stay pretty stacked on this. They might move a little bit, but really focus on the rotation coming from the upper spine. Feel a sense of length to your tail, right? Ribs are still pretty heavy. And then as you exhale, think of using your waistline, right? That rib line to help bring you back. And again, top elbow lifts, let the head and the upper spine start to rotate, middle spine. Again, make sure we're not overly popped through the rib cage or overly arced into the lower back as you rotate. Yep. Slowly come back one more like this. So this rotation, really important for our posture. Rotating back, now hold that. So wherever, right, wherever you've gone, your elbow, your shoulder does not have to touch the floor, but just once you find that rotation, hold and breathe into it. And really think of breathing, right, laterally, so side to side, front, and especially the back. And then as you exhale, slowly come back to center. Nice, and then just flip sides. Make sure you're still facing the same direction, or just make sure you can see me and you're on your opposite side. Knees bent forward, heels in line with the sit bones, bottom arm long, or you can use a prop. Once you're there, right, find your neutral. So this top hip isn't hiked, right? There's a sense of length. Waistline's in, top thigh lifts into the band, right? And we're just gonna hold here just for a moment, right, and assess, right, if you fan the fingers back, that you feel, right, not just the side of the hip on, but the center of the gluteals on as well, right? Take that top heel, push it down into your bottom foot. Maybe it's toes and heel together. Slowly lower the leg, try not to lose the tension, set the stomach, and again, lift. Slowly lower. And lift. And you might notice the side is already fatigued from stabilizing on that other side. Yep. Good. Yep. Again, just check your posture. So not overly arched, not overly rounded, just stable, not overly bearing down or gripping, but you feel your core, right? Front, back, side to side, working to create some stability while your thigh is moving. Just easy in the neck, the shoulders. And last two. And on the last one, hold at the top. So you're going to keep the tension in the band and just kick that foot to the to parallel the start. So my thigh, shin, and everything's kind of parallel to the ground. I'm going to reach back just a little bit in space, keeping the knee 90 degrees. So I've opened up the front of the hip a bit. Exhale, start your internal rotation from there. Right? For me, that's about it. Inhale back to center. And again, exhale, find that internal rotation, right, without kind of dropping the hip back or hiking the hip up. Back to center. And you're going to feel some different, really kind of smaller muscles in the side of the hip start to turn on. Try to maintain the tension in the band the whole time. So make sure as that foot drops, you're not dropping your thigh, but you're staying in that tension and keeping the thigh that same height the whole time. Good. Everybody feeling this? Okay. So I sometimes feel like this is, not necessarily here, but sometimes the forgotten movement, internal rotation. We need it though. Last one. Back to center, relax, and just kind of pad out the side of the glutes there for a moment. And find your center again. That top leg is going to lengthen out. It's going to reach back slightly in space. So the front of the hip is already in an open position. We'll lengthen and lift up hip height to start. Keep the waistline in, foot pointed. Exhale, lift a little higher. And then just come back to center. So you're never out of the tension if you're using a band, right? Remember, you don't have to use this to feel the work in the gluteals. And if you ever feel like it's creating more tension, right, then, bad tension versus good tension, just ditch it. Make sure that leg is lengthening, the hip isn't hiking, rib line, waistline staying in. Good. So the back of the leg is active, the side of the leg is active. And then the next time that you come to center, about hip height, bend the knee. Yep, let that thigh come a little forward. So you're going to feel some of the tension on the band go away. The knee stays 90 degrees. And then think of pushing, right, that thigh bone straight back. Center of the glute, center of the hamstrings kick in. Inhale it forward. And you'll get a little bit more active stretch to the front of the hip and front of the thigh. Keep your waistline drawing in so that back doesn't overly arc. Front of the ribs stay in and active. And last two. Yeah, last one. And come back to center, let that leg lower, and again, just kind of pat out the side of the hip. Keep your hips stacked, both hands behind the head, right? If you have a little pillow or prop, just take that away for a moment. Top elbow to the sky, let your head and your neck and your upper spine start to rotate back. Again, I'm not kind of bracing or bearing down through my ribs, but I'm also not letting them pop up. There's a sense of length through my lower back as I rotate towards the floor. And then exhale, bringing it back. And again, slowly, right, rib cage rotating, spiraling back in space with your head. Make sure it's going with you. And back to center. Yeah. And just one more like this. Head, rib cage spiraling back. Hold on this one. And then again, just breathe side to side, front, especially into that back body. And this is one I'll generally feel like a little pop or kind of little adjustment just by using my breath on this. On your next exhale, use your waistline, bring yourself back to center, and then you can ditch your band if you were using one like we were here. Goodbye, band. All right. That thing is done. So if you have a mini ball, grab your mini ball. I'm at home, a foam roller would work on this as well, or we don't need anything at all. So we're going to come down onto our stomach. And so I'm going to demo kind of the peel back on this first, and then we'll get right into it with the mini ball. So the peel back, you'll have hands somewhere in front of your shoulders, elbows off to your side, hips heavy, pelvis neutral, legs as wide as you need them. We'll inhale, we're going to peel up just into upper middle back extension. Right, so my lower back really isn't changing shape. And then we're coming back down. So that's going to be the peel back if this ball one doesn't feel so good. So we're going to start with the forearms on the purple ball, hands together kind of in like a prayer pose or like a prayer pose. And you want to find a place where your head can come to the ground and your shoulders can start in your ears. So you feel a bit of that stretch under the waistline, or under the armpit rather. Anchor the pubic bone, lift the tummy, and then start to shrug your shoulder blades down first, pushing a little bit into the ball, and then let the head, the upper spine, and the middle spine come into a little bit of extension. And just hold there for a breath. Keep the sense of your pubic bone lifting so your abs are on. And then slowly start to lower back down. At the bottom, let your shoulders stretch up into your ears again. And again, set the shoulders down. Inhale, start to peel up. So again, there's a sense of pushing down a little bit into the prop. Upper spine, middle spine, keep those lower abs drawing up. And take it down with control. So keep going with this. I also feel a good amount of triceps working if you're using like a roller or right this mini ball. Yeah. Just maybe one or two more. And if you can, try to keep the elbows straight. Oh yeah, maybe you don't come up as high, and that's okay. So it's gonna create, right, a lot more active length through the armpit. Yeah, how's this one feeling? Just one more, peel up, right? Easy in the shoulders, right? Long in the neck, and then lower all the way back down. Yeah, nice. All right, if you had a prop, take it off to the side, and then take your arms behind you. Palms can be face down, right, on the outer edges of your mat, so on the surface of the floor next to you. Nose an inch off the ground, legs wide, hip distance, or together if you want more work, if you want to take it up a notch. Pubic bone heavy, lift the tummy. Inhale, start to reach out through the crown of the head. Peel the chest up to about the base of the breastbone, and then the hands can lift as well. Now holding here, feel that those lower floating ribs, there's a sense of them lifting. Your low tummy, there's a sense of it lifting away from your t-shirt. So your lower back has some support, and then your glutes are on in the background. On your next breath out, lower the chest, the arms, the shoulders, everything comes down. And again, set your shoulders, start to lengthen out through the crown of the head, peeling up. So head, upper spine, middle spine, arms can lift, maybe the legs lift. And lower back on this is still pretty neutral, right? We haven't gone into a ton of lumbar extension. Lengthening out through the toes, lifting up through the belly. And then again, lower back down. Set the stomach. Again, peel the head up, chest follows, arms follow, maybe the legs follow, right? Now I want you to close your eyes and just maintain this position. And it might be a little bit lower, might be a little higher, but breathe in. And as you breathe in, let that inhale take your upper spine into a little more extension. So the act of breathing in is creating, yes, that extension. And then as you breathe out, feel your stomach drawn a little bit more away from your t-shirt. And again, as you breathe in, feel that upper spine, middle spine, right, extending. And then as you breathe out, find a little bit more core to support that extension. Yeah. And just take one more full breath. And then lower everything down, push back child's pose. Knees together is going to give you a little bit more of a center of the spine stretch. Knees apart is going to give you more of a little bit of a hip opener with spine stretch. Again, just breathe. Notice how this feels kind of towards the end of the hour than it did in the beginning. And then rise up to hands and knees. All right, so hands under shoulders, knees under hips. So similar to how we started, right? Press down into your palms and feel some work underneath your shoulder blades and your armpits. Lift your waistline, keeping the lower back pretty neutral. And then press down into your knees and your shins, even the tops of the feet, and notice if you feel the waistline and the glutes kick in. On your next breath out, right leg is going to start to reach back and up. Your other three limbs are still rooting down into the ground. So there's minimal shift in the shoulders, the hips. Lower that leg down, bend it in. And then left leg reaches out. The limbs that are still on the ground, those limbs are rooting downward a little bit, and almost think of the hands pulling towards the bottom leg. So there's a sense of the waistline still drawing in. Lower, bend. And again, exhale, reach and switch. And I'm using, right, my standing leg, those outer hip muscles to help keep me from kind of side bending or swaying to the side. Ah. Easy in the shoulders. Now the next time the right leg reaches back, let's keep it backing up. Hold. Now imagine a diagonal line from your right hand to your left knee. So those 2 points could touch. And then see if your left hand can come to your chest. So you have to balance. Yeah, and if you touch the front of your right pecs, front of the right chest, there's some work there. There's work in the arm for sure, behind the armpit and shoulder blades in the waistline. So full body. Now maybe just close your eyes if you want to challenge your balance for a moment. All right, feels a little shaky, just open those eyes back up. Lower the limbs down. Left leg starts, it reaches back and up. Hold, feel that diagonal line, left hand to right knee. And then right hand eventually can come to the chest. So it's full core, right? Front, side, back. Maybe close the eyes to challenge your balance. And lower down. And then on the next one, right leg stretches back, left arm can stretch forward, palm faces inward, neck just kind of easy. So imagine some length in between the top of the shoulder and the base of the ear, and some work underneath the base of the shoulder blade. Lower down, and again, switch. Left leg, right arm, palm can face in. So yeah, we're just kind of layering things up. Feel some ease from the bottom of the ear to the top of the shoulder. One more each side, your own time, your own pace. Yeah, feeling those lower ribs still lifting, making sure, yeah, you're not sinking into the lower back. Yeah, we should have just one more left. Good. Making sure you're not kind of shifting too much from side to side. Yep. Once you finish that last one, push back child's pose. And just take a full breath into the back of the ribs. Yep. And then rise up, hands and knees. You can make your way through a down dog. And eventually, actually, if this feels good, just take a moment, give those calves and hamstrings a little stretch so you can pedal at the feet from side to side. And eventually just come up to standing, nothing fancy, just coming on up. All right. So if you want more challenge, stay on your mat to challenge your balance. Less challenge, just walk away from your mat. And you're just going to step one leg in front of the other. So fairly simple. Right, legs straight but not locked. Right, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. And then if you shift your weight a little forward and back, find the centers of both feet. So you don't feel like your weight is on more on one leg than the other. There's that little bit of weight lift to the waistline, and I'm not braced, but there's a sense of length, sense of rooting down through the feet and then stretching up through the crown of the head. All right, now stay here or close your eyes. Right? Just make sure there's nothing too close to you, right? If you lose your balance, you don't want to fall into something or someone. All right, maybe open the eyes back up, keep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Focus like something just straight out in front of you. So even if your eyes are closed, there's a sense of looking kind of straight out in between the eyes. You're going to feel your feet and your lower limbs get a little shaky. They're going to start moving a bit. Ooh, open your eyes. Good. Switch legs. So opposite leg forward. Yeah. Again, legs straight but not locked out. Shift it forward and back. Find your center. Again, you can have a wall close by or a chair or a counter. So first, just once you find your center, just feel what this feels like. Sense of rooting down, lengthening up. Maybe close your eyes. Keep breathing, right? Taking your arms out wider away from you is going to help with your balance if you feel a little shaky on this side. Right? Hands at your chest or just by your side will be a little more challenging. Open your eyes, take your feet hip distance, just shake everything out. So just a really simple way to kind of wake up the nervous system and to wake up kind of our balance system. So feet hip distance or completely together if you want a little more challenge on your balance still. As you exhale, nod your chin first. So imagine if you were up against a wall, right? The head goes back, the chin drops down. So you want to feel a little bit of a stretch in the back of the neckline. Start to roll down. Soften the knees as much as you need to, heavy in the head. And then just breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Really let any tension in the back of the head, the back of the jaw, the arms, the upper back, the shoulders, right? As you exhale, just let that get a little heavier towards the ground. And then bend the knees just a little bit more. And then as you exhale, slowly start to roll up. Let your head come up last, but just one bone at a time. Yeah. And then once you're at the top, take just one hand behind your head and very gently, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but let the back of your head go backward slightly. So literally imagine that the head is just very gently reaching back. And then at the same time, the chin starts to drop down a little. And you have your hand to create some resistance, right? So I'm kind of resisting against my head. And you should feel a nice stretch back of the neck, kind of right under the jawline, the ear line. Come back to center. And then again, feel the head go back, chin drops down. Right, the front of your deep neck flexors are going to turn on and the back of your neck extensors are going to get a little bit of a stretch. Back to center and one more. And in a scale of 1 to 10, like our effort on this is maybe a 3. So it doesn't have to be a ton of effort. We're not trying to shear anything. We're just creating some stretch. Good. And then relax that arm. And then let your head drop to one side, doesn't matter which one. Feel the opposite arm, opposite fingers reach down a little bit towards the floor. So you feel a stretch more in the side of your neck. And then come back to center, head over to the opposite side. Yeah, and that right opposite arm. So if I'm tilting my head right, my left fingers are reaching down. Relax the jaw. And then roll your head forward. Just take a couple circles. Reverse those circles. And then bring the head to center. Close your eyes for a moment. Feel a sense of length through the body, but without a ton of bracing or tension. Take a big inhale through the nose. Exhale, let it out through the mouth. One more. This time as you inhale, see if you can find a little bit more height, a little bit more space. Exhale out fully. Try to maintain that space and that height for the rest of the day. We'll leave you there. Thanks for joining. If you have any questions, let me know.